Imagine yourself at a crossroads. To one side, the path shines with clarity. To the other, it dissolves into fog. In ancient Greece, seekers of wisdom turned to Athena, goddess of strategy, clear vision, and the courage to decide when the world felt uncertain. She was not only a warrior, but a guide through confusion. Today, we face our own battles. Endless exams, overwhelming choices, the pressure to pick the right path in studies, careers, or ventures. And though the times have changed, the need for clarity has not. What if Athena's wisdom lived on? Not in temples or myths, but in a modern practice called cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. This is not a lecture on old philosophy. This is a journey, a shield and a compass, designed to help you make daily decisions with calm, strength, and precision. In every age, humanity has asked the same question. How do I choose wisely when the stakes are high and the future is uncertain? For the ancient Greeks, the answer often came in the form of Athena. She was not the goddess of brute force or blind victory. She was the goddess of strategy, foresight, and measured judgment. Where Ares rushed into battle with fury, Athena entered with clarity, seeing 10 moves ahead, considering not only what could be gained, but also what might be lost. And here is where her myth becomes more than just a story. Because Athena's gift was not abstract wisdom written in stone tablets. It was practical wisdom, what the Stoics later called phronesis, the ability to navigate real choices in real life. Not in perfect conditions, but in the mess of stress, conflict, and urgency. Imagine a young student preparing for final exams. It is late at night, and anxiety whispers, "Stay up another 2 hours. Cram more. If you stop now, you'll fail." Another voice says, "Rest, sleep, trust what you know." Both seem convincing. Both paths carry risk. This is the crossroads. Without clarity, the fog thickens. Without strategy, panic makes the choice for you. Athena steps in here, not with thunderbolts, but with vision. She asks, what is the wise action now, given what you value most? Modern science, surprisingly, has caught up with Athena. In 2021, researchers at the University of Toronto ran studies on cognitive reappraisal, a central skill of cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. They found that by reframing a stressful thought, the body itself responded. Cortisol levels dropped, heart rate slowed, and decision-making improved. In other words, the ability to see differently doesn't just change the story in your head. It changes the chemistry in your blood. This is what Athena offered. Not escape from the storm, but a new vantage point above it. Let's shift scenes. Picture a young founder leading a small team in a startup. Investors are waiting. The team is stretched thin. There are two potential roadmaps. Build the safe feature that pays bills, or gamble on the bold idea that could scale or fail. Pressure mounts. One path looks safe but uninspiring. The other looks thrilling but terrifying. Here again, Athena's kind of wisdom matters. Practical wisdom is not about always choosing the bold or the safe option. It is about pausing in the fog, weighing the deeper values, and seeing beyond the panic of the moment. It asks, which path, though uncertain, best aligns with your purpose, your strengths, and your vision? The Stoics admired this quality. To them, wisdom was not memorizing doctrines. It was the art of applying reason to life's storms. Seneca wrote that the wise man is never in a hurry, because haste is the enemy of clarity. Marcus Aurelius, ruling an empire, reminded himself daily, do not let your mind be conquered by externals. Athena's wisdom flowed into this Stoic discipline, the training of the mind not to chase fear or desire blindly, but to step back, to see, to choose. Think of your mind as a battlefield. Thousands of thoughts rush across like soldiers, clashing, colliding, shouting for your attention. Some are useful scouts, bringing real warnings. Others are false alarms, panicked deserters spreading fear. Without strategy, you get overwhelmed. But with Athena at your side, the battlefield changes. She does not silence the noise, she organizes it. She says, this voice is useful, that one is not. This path aligns with your values. That one leads to ruin. Practical wisdom is not the absence of voices, it is the art of command. Stanford researchers studying reappraisal found that when people reframed a stressful situation, their prefrontal cortex, the brain's center for rational thought, lit up, while the amygdala, the seat of fear, quieted down. Science gives us the brain scan version of Athena's gift: clarity rising, panic retreating. The battlefield comes under command. For students, this might mean choosing between another hour of late-night study or protecting your sleep. For young professionals, it might mean deciding whether to speak up in a meeting or hold back. These may not look like epic battles, but they shape your life more than you realize. The choices you make daily, under pressure, under fog, define the trajectory of your journey. So what is Athena's gift when stripped of myth and seen in our daily lives? It is this: wisdom is not perfect knowledge. Wisdom is the discipline of asking the right questions. Wisdom is the courage to pause before you leap. And that's where CBT enters the story. Because in the next part of our journey, we will see that Athena's ancient strategy lives on in 3 simple questions. Questions that cut through the fog, steady your breath, and guide you toward clarity in the very moments when pressure is greatest. The battlefield of the mind is filled with noise. Thoughts clash like rival armies, each demanding to be obeyed. Some shout warnings of danger. Others whisper promises of reward. But many are illusions, echoes of fear or distortions of memory. This is where Athena's strategy meets modern science. For while Stoic wisdom taught us to pause before choosing, cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, gives us a practical framework for what to do in that pause. It teaches us how to reframe, and reframing is nothing less than turning fog into map. The 3 questions of clarity. In CBT, cognitive reappraisal is the art of stepping outside your immediate reaction and looking again with sharper eyes. To do this, we need a structure, a compass. Think of it as a ritual. 3 questions that can be carried into every battle of choice. These are Athena's modern gift. Simple, sharp, and powerful. Question 1. Is this thought fact or is it fear? Fear has an incredible talent for dressing up as truth. It uses costumes. I know I'm going to fail this exam. I'm sure the investors will hate my pitch. Yet if you pause, you realize these are not facts. They are forecasts, anxieties in disguise. Scientific studies confirm this. Our brains are prediction machines, wired to anticipate threats before they happen. But those predictions are often wrong. A 2019 study in the Journal of Anxiety Disorders showed that nearly 85% of feared outcomes never came pass. The storm was more often in the mind than in reality. So Athena's first question slices through. Is this fact or fear? For the student at midnight, staring at textbooks, the thought, if I stop now, I will fail feels like truth. But under Athena's gaze, it becomes clear it is fear, not fact. Sleep may be wiser than panic. Question 2. What's the worst that could happen? And could I handle it? The second question is about courage. Stoics taught us that fear shrinks when confronted directly. Seneca once said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Modern CBT echoes this by asking us to face the monster head-on. What is the worst that could realistically happen? And if it did, how would you cope? The young founder considers a bold roadmap. The fear is catastrophic. If I choose wrong, my startup will collapse, my reputation destroyed. But when you run the numbers, when you lay it bare, you see a different picture. The worst may be a failed feature, some wasted months, hard lessons learned. Painful, yes, but survivable, even useful. Research from Harvard Business School highlights this. Entrepreneurs who consciously visualize worst-case outcomes often make calmer, more rational decisions. They act not recklessly, but with resilience. The second question doesn't eliminate risk. It gives you strength to carry it. Because when you see that you could endure, you are no longer paralyzed by the shadow of fear. Question 3. What perspective would I give a friend in this situation? The third question is the bridge to compassion and objectivity. Why? Because we are merciless with ourselves, but generous with others. Think of it. When a friend comes to you in crisis, panicking before an exam or a meeting, you don't say yes, you're doomed. You calm them. You highlight their strengths. You show them options. That is clarity. CBT asks us to borrow that same kindness and apply it inward. What advice would you give if you were the friend? Neuroscience explains why this works. Imaging studies show that when people shift perspective, activity moves from the emotional centers of the brain to the regions responsible for reasoning and empathy. Simply asking this question literally changes the architecture of thought. So for the overwhelmed student, the advice might be, you've studied well. Sleep will help memory. Trust yourself. For the founder, take the bold step, but mitigate risk with small experiments first. The advice is calmer, clearer, and it comes from your own inner Athena. Put these 3 questions together, and you have a shield against panic. Is this fact or fear? What's the worst that could happen? And could I handle it? What perspective would I give a friend? They work because they break the cycle of automatic reaction. They interrupt the storm long enough for clarity to shine through. Picture your thoughts again as soldiers on a battlefield. Fear sends waves of panicked infantry. Doubt fires arrows from the shadows. But Athena's 3 questions rise like a commander's voice above the noise. The first question dismisses the false scouts spreading lies. The second steadies the shield, preparing you to face real blows. The third brings counsel, like a trusted ally whispering wisdom in your ear. Suddenly, the battlefield is not chaos, it is strategy. This framework is not philosophy floating in the clouds. It is practical, measurable, alive. fMRI studies show that reappraisal strengthens the prefrontal cortex, the seat of decision-making, while calming the amygdala. Ancient myth meets brain science in perfect harmony. For a student, these 3 questions may decide whether the night ends in exhaustion or calm focus. For a young founder, they may decide whether fear drives strategy or clarity shapes it. Small moments, daily crossroads, yet life-shaping outcomes. Athena's wisdom was never about knowing the future. It was about standing in uncertainty with courage and vision. These 3 questions are her gift, reframed for our world. Carry them as your compass. Because when the fog rises, when the battlefield of the mind grows loud, you will not be left unarmed. You will have clarity. You will have strategy. And in that clarity, every decision becomes not a leap into darkness, but a step into purpose. In this moment, I want to invite you into a different kind of experience. Up until now, we've been exploring ideas, frameworks, and tools, ways of understanding your mind and the choices you make. But right now, I want you to move from listening to doing. This is a guided exercise designed to place you in the heat of decision-making, so you can feel, right here and right now, how clarity can emerge even under pressure. Close your eyes if you can, or simply soften your gaze. Allow the noise of your surroundings to blur just for a few minutes. Breathe in deeply through your nose and release slowly through your mouth. Imagine yourself stepping into a scenario. Not tomorrow, not someday, right now. Picture this. You are sitting in a room filled with people waiting for your response. Maybe it's a business meeting where a decision must be made. Maybe it's a family moment where your choice will set the tone. Whatever it is, you can feel the weight. The expectation in the room presses on you like heat. You don't have hours to analyze. You don't have the luxury of retreat. You must decide. Notice how your body responds. Do your shoulders tighten? Does your chest feel heavy? Does your mind begin to race ahead, listing all the risks, all the potential mistakes? Good. Hold that sensation. This is the terrain of pressure. Now, I want you to bring the first layer of grounding. Feel your feet. Imagine them sinking into the floor, solid, rooted, unshakable. Breathe once more. Inhale clarity. Exhale noise. As you do this, remind yourself silently, I am still here. I am not the storm. I am the anchor. In this room, in this moment, 3 paths open before you. Each path represents a possible decision. Don't worry yet about what the paths mean. Just see them forming like corridors of light. One on your left, One straight ahead, one on your right. Which one feels brightest? Which one feels dim? Take a moment to sense your instinct before you even begin to reason. Now we bring in the second layer, perspective. I want you to imagine the decision you are about to make as if it has already been made. Step forward in your mind into path 1. Walk it. See the choice unfolding. How do the people around you respond? How does your own future self respond? Feel in your chest. Does this path expand you, or does it contract you? Do you breathe easier or tighter? Step back. Now enter path 2. Imagine fully committing to this choice. Who benefits? Who struggles? How do you hold yourself after this decision? Is there pride? Is there doubt? Again, feel in your body, not just in your head. Finally, walk path 3. Let the outcome play out. The conversations, the consequences, the quiet moment when you are alone, reflecting on what you chose. What rises in you? Relief, fear, energy, peace. Step back again. Now you're standing in the center. You've walked each corridor, tasted each possibility. The people waiting on you don't see this process, but you have lived it in your inner world. And in that inner world, clarity starts to form. You know now which path carries less noise, less distortion, less regret. Bring the decision closer. Name it in your mind. Whisper it if you can. I choose this. Feel the energy shift. The racing mind calms because a direction has been chosen. The weight on your shoulders softens because uncertainty has transformed into movement. But here is the final key. Under pressure, your mind can try to trick you into thinking that the decision is a trap, that once chosen, you are chained. That is not true. Remind yourself, this is the best choice I can make with the clarity I have now. And that is enough. Repeat it softly to yourself. It is enough. Notice what happens to your breathing when you say that. Notice how the body loosens. Because the truth is, pressure multiplies when we demand perfection. But when we accept sufficiency, we reclaim freedom. Now, let's return slowly. Imagine the room around you again. The people waiting. This time, you're no longer shrinking under their gaze. You're sitting taller. You look into their eyes, and instead of panic, you feel steadiness. You open your mouth and you speak the decision. Clear, firm, human, and then silence. The moment right after the words leave your lips. That silence is the turning point. It is where power shifts back into balance. You didn't collapse under the pressure. You guided it. Take one last deep breath. Inhale strength. Exhale doubt. Wiggle your fingers. Open your eyes if they were closed, and come back fully to where you are. Remember, this exercise is not imaginary theater. It is training. The next time you face pressure, your body will remember this anchor, this practice, this sense of choosing clarity under heat. And with repetition, it becomes second nature. So, the question is not whether you will face pressure. You will. The question is, when the weight is on you, will you crumble, or will you step into it with calm presence? This practice has already given you the answer. You now know how to decide under pressure, not with fear, but with clarity. Every single day, from the moment you open your eyes, you are bombarded with noise. Notifications ping. The world rushes in. Your mind begins sprinting before your body has even left the bed. And yet, if you look closely at the most grounded, focused, and effective people, you'll notice one simple truth. They don't allow the world to choose their first thought of the day. They choose it themselves. That's the essence of the Daily Clarity micro-ritual, a short practice that requires almost no time, but rewires the entire trajectory of your day. Imagine this. Instead of waking and instantly reaching for your phone, you give yourself 60 seconds of sovereignty. Just 1 minute. In that minute, you carve out a sanctuary where you reclaim authority over your attention. Most people underestimate the power of such a small pause because we're conditioned to believe that change must come from massive effort. But clarity, like a seed, grows from the smallest, most consistent acts of intention. So how does this ritual work? It's built on 3 tiny movements that together form a compass: breath, word, and vision. Let's start with breath. The moment you wake, before the world has a chance to demand anything from you, take one slow inhale. Not a casual breath, but a deliberate, deep one that fills your lungs to capacity. Hold it for just a heartbeat, then release with intention, as though you are letting go of yesterday. That first conscious breath tells your nervous system, I am awake, and I am in command. It sounds deceptively simple, but this one act disrupts autopilot. It's the reset button hidden in plain sight. Next comes the word. As you exhale, bring to mind a single word that will serve as your anchor for the day. Not a list, not a lecture to yourself, just one word. It might be focus. It might be ease. It might be strength. Choose whatever your spirit is hungry for. Whisper if you can. Write it down if you prefer. That word becomes your North Star, the silent note humming beneath everything you do. Whenever chaos tries to drag you off course, that word pulls you back. And finally, vision. Before you rise from bed, paint one image in your mind. Yourself, later in the day, embodying that word in action. If your word was focus, picture yourself at your desk, fully present, working with clarity. If your word was ease, imagine yourself moving through a difficult conversation with calm. If your word was strength, see yourself saying no where you once would have collapsed into yes. This vision is not fantasy, it is rehearsal. Your brain doesn't know the difference between imagined experience and real preparation. By running this short mental film, you prime yourself to step into it when the moment arrives. Breath, word, vision. That's the entire ritual. It takes no more than 1 minute, and yet it holds the power to redirect the current of your day. Because here's the truth, your mornings are not neutral. The first few moments after you wake set the tone for everything that follows. If you surrender them to noise, the day belongs to chaos. If you claim them with clarity, the day bends toward your intention. Think of it like the tuning of an instrument. An orchestra can be filled with world-class musicians, but if they never tune their instruments, the music will always sound off. Your mind, your body, your choices, they're the orchestra. This micro-ritual is the tuning fork. Without it, you may play, but you won't harmonize. With it, you align. And here's where it gets interesting. When you repeat this ritual daily, the effect compounds. The first few times, it may feel like a novelty, a small gesture. But give it 7 days, and you'll notice your mornings no longer pull you into panic. Give it 30 days, and you'll notice decisions come easier. Give it 90 days, and you'll realize you have rewired your relationship with clarity itself. The ritual will no longer be something you do. It will become something you are. Now, I want you to picture the contrast. Imagine 2 versions of yourself. The first version wakes up, scrolls the phone, absorbs the chaos of headlines and feeds, and spends the day reacting, pulled in every direction. The second version wakes, breathes with intention, sets a word, holds a vision, and spends the day guided rather than dragged. Same external world, same demands, but completely different inner command. Which life feels like yours? Which life do you want to claim? The beauty of this ritual is that it strips away excuses. You don't need a meditation cushion. You don't need 20 extra minutes. You don't need silence or solitude. You need one breath, one word, one vision. That's all. In a world addicted to more, this is the power of less. So tomorrow, when you wake, pause before your hand reaches for the screen. Breathe as though your lungs are drinking in the dawn. Whisper the word that will steer your spirit. See yourself already walking that word into the hours ahead. And then rise, not into noise, but into clarity. Remember, clarity is not something you stumble upon. It is something you choose. And every day gives you that choice again. One breath, one word, one vision. That is your micro-ritual. That is your key. As our journey draws to a close, it is time to place in your hands not a myth, not an abstract philosophy, but a compass. Athena's compass. A practical tool you can return to every day, especially when the fog of doubt thickens or when decisions press down like the weight of stone. A compass that will not tell you which exact path to take, but will ensure that whatever direction you choose, you will walk it with clarity, courage, and intention. The compass is a checklist. 5 points, like the 5 rays of a star carved into the shield of wisdom itself. It is not meant to overwhelm you with detail, but to anchor you in simplicity, because clarity is born from what is essential, not from what is excessive. Each point connects back to the practices we have explored together. Each one becomes a reminder you can carry in your mind, ready at any moment when the noise of life tries to drown your sense of direction. The first point of the compass is breath. Always begin with the breath. When tension tightens your chest and thoughts swirl, pause for one slow, deliberate inhale. This is your reset. It pulls you out of autopilot and signals to your body, I am present. I am awake. Just as the warriors of old sharpened their blades before battle, your breath sharpens your presence before action. Never underestimate its power. The second point is perspective. Here is where the wisdom of cognitive reframing enters. Ask yourself the first question of clarity. What story am I telling myself right now? Am I trapped in catastrophe, in the illusion that one decision will define my entire life? Or can I step back and see that this moment, though important, is also one of many? Athena's gift is vision, the ability to see not just the immediate, but the larger map. When you question your perspective, you free yourself from being chained to your first fearful thought. The third point is alignment. Recall your word, your anchor, the value you chose in your daily micro-ritual. Ask the second question of clarity. Does this decision align with the person I want to become? Alignment does not mean perfection. It means direction. Even if the choice is imperfect, does it move you closer to focus, to strength, to ease, or whatever your word may be? Without alignment, even success feels hollow. With alignment, even small steps carry dignity. The fourth point is courage. The third question of clarity is this. If I choose this path, what is the worst that could truly happen? And could I endure it? Courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward despite it. By naming the worst-case scenario, you rob it of its shadowy power. You realize that the monster is smaller than the fog made it appear. Here, Athena whispers what she whispered to countless heroes. Strategy is nothing without the boldness to act. And the fifth and final point of the compass is reflection. Every evening, no matter how chaotic your day has been, return to stillness for just a moment and ask, what did I learn from today's choices? Not to punish yourself, not to endlessly analyze, but to harvest wisdom. The Stoics believed every day contained a lesson. Reflection is the practice of collecting those lessons before they vanish into the night. Over time, reflection sharpens the compass itself, so that each tomorrow begins with more clarity than the last. Breath, perspective, alignment, courage, reflection. 5 points, simple enough to recall in the heat of the moment, powerful enough to anchor you when the ground feels unstable. This is Athena's compass. This is your closing checklist. Now imagine how these 5 points would play out in real life. A student sits at their desk, overwhelmed by the enormity of an exam season. They remember to breathe, to calm their racing heart. They question their perspective. This test feels like the end of the world, but in truth is a step in a long journey. They check alignment. Studying now aligns with the future they want. They face courage. They admit their fear of failure, but recognize they can endure it and grow. And finally, they reflect at night, seeing that even small efforts build momentum. Or imagine a young founder staring at a roadmap with too many paths. They breathe before panic consumes them. They challenge their perspective. No single choice will break the company, but paralysis might. They check alignment. Does this choice serve the vision they promised to themselves and their team? They summon courage, knowing there is no perfect path, but progress demands action. And at night, they reflect, refining their wisdom for the battles of tomorrow. These are not grand myths carved into marble. These are living rituals, as alive in your daily life as they were in the strategies of generals and philosophers. Athena's compass is not about control over outcomes. It is about clarity in the process. And when clarity becomes habit, even uncertainty loses its power to paralyze you. As you step away from this video, I invite you to remember one final truth. Wisdom is not stored in temples, books, or videos. Wisdom lives in practice. It is not what you know, it is what you do consistently, especially when pressure is high. The checklist is your invitation to practice, to breathe, to reframe, to align, to act with courage, to reflect and refine. So tomorrow, when you face your next decision, large or small, summon Athena's compass. Trust that with these 5 points in your pocket, you will not walk blind through fog. You will walk with clarity, guided by strategy, anchored in wisdom. And that, more than any single choice, is what will shape the path ahead. Athena's compass is now yours. Carry it well. The journey is nearly complete, but the echo of what we've explored does not end here. Wisdom, if it is real, does not vanish when the screen fades to black. It lingers, it shapes, it reverberates into the choices you will make long after this moment. This is what I call the after echo, the resonance of Athena's clarity carried into your everyday life. When the ancients told stories of gods and heroes, they never expected the audience to simply admire the tale and move on. No, the myths were designed to live inside you, to remind you in moments of weakness, in crossroads of confusion, that you too are capable of rising into clarity. And so, as we close this chapter together, I want you to recognize that the wisdom of Athena, blended with the precision of modern cognitive science, has already been placed in your hands. What you choose to do with it is what will determine whether this is merely a story you listened to or a transformation you stepped into. Think of the moments ahead in your life, the emails waiting for you, the deadlines approaching, the personal choices tugging at you. Those are not distractions from this journey. They're the proving ground. Every exam question, every roadmap decision, every conversation with someone who depends on you, each of these is the battlefield where you decide whether to wield Athena's compass or to stumble through the fog without it. The after echo lives in the micro moments. When your alarm rings tomorrow morning, the temptation will be to reach for your phone, to let the world dictate the first thought of your day. But if the after echo has truly taken root, you will pause. You will breathe. You will choose your word. You will see your vision. And in that single act, you will declare, "Today belongs to me, not to chaos." But the echo can go even further. When you sit in a crowded library with the weight of exams pressing against your temples, recall the 3 questions of clarity. What story am I telling myself? Does this decision align with who I wish to become? What's the worst that could happen, and can I endure it? These are not abstract questions. They are swords that cut through panic, shields that guard against self-sabotage. And each time you ask them, the after echo grows stronger until reframing becomes second nature, until clarity is no longer forced but fluent. And when you face moments of courage, decisions about your career, your relationships, your projects, the after echo will remind you that fear is not a signal to stop, but an invitation to grow. Courage, aligned with clarity, is the alchemy of progress. This is how myths transform into habits, and habits into destiny. But let's extend the value beyond the immediate. What you've learned here is not just about surviving decisions. It's about cultivating a life anchored in wisdom. Science calls it cognitive reappraisal, the art of reshaping how we interpret challenges. Philosophy calls it Stoic virtue, the ability to govern ourselves when the world feels ungovernable. Myth calls it Athena's gift, the shield of clarity. And you, standing now at the intersection of all 3, can call a practice. Here's the invitation. Don't keep this compass locked inside. Share it. Teach it. The echo multiplies when it leaves your lips and enters the life of another. When you tell a friend overwhelmed with exams about the one-word ritual, when you remind a colleague caught in panic that breath precedes clarity, when you pass the compass onward, you amplify it, and in that amplification, you strengthen your own resolve. There will be days when you forget, days when chaos wins the morning, when fear clouds the path, when reflection is neglected. That's not failure. That is the rhythm of practice. What matters is that you return. Every return is an act of resilience. Every return proves that clarity, though it may waver, is never truly lost. It waits patiently, like Athena herself, for you to remember and to rise again. And so, as this video closes, let the after echo carry forward. Let it remind you tomorrow morning when you wake. Let it guide you at the next crossroads you face. Let it whisper in the quiet of reflection at night. You are not navigating blindly. You are guided. You have breath as your reset. You have questions as your torch. You have alignment as your compass point. You have courage as your shield. And you have reflection as your teacher. If this message resonates with you, let the echo expand. Share in the comments the one word you will claim for tomorrow. It may be focus. It may be ease. It may be strength. By speaking it aloud, you anchor it not just in your mind, but in your community. Others will read it, and they too may take courage from your choice. And so the circle of clarity widens. Finally, remember, Athena's clarity is not about perfection. It is about presence. It is about showing up each day with intention, with resilience, and with the willingness to refine. The compass will not remove uncertainty, but it will make you unshakable within it. And when enough days are lived this way, you will look back and realize something extraordinary, that your life has become a story worth telling, not because of grand victories, but because of countless small choices made with clarity. So carry the compass, breathe, reframe, align, act, reflect, and let the after echo guide you beyond this video into the unfolding myth of your own life.